The Nintendo 3DS is home to a ton of incredible games that have given me so many great memories over the years. This small handheld console is still so much fun to use, and today I want to spend some time going over my all-time favorite games on this system. While these experiences are somewhat limited by the power of the hardware, they more than make up for it through their pure creativity and charming design. And as Nintendo's last purely portable machine, they also represent the end of this era of strictly handheld-focused gaming. So I decided to put together my list of the top 25 3DS games as a tribute to this amazing console, according to my own personal opinions. Some of these I have tons of nostalgia for, while others I played for the first time just recently. Now I don't have every 3DS game, so I won't be able to include all of the great games that are out there as I only have so much free time. As always, this is just my list and I'm sure you'll disagree with my placements, so be sure to share which 3DS games are your personal favorites in the comments. I'll also be going over a big collection of honorable mentions at the end. Now let's get right into it, starting with number 25. Nintendogs Plus Cats is a solid evolution of the original DS game, adding in plenty of new features that make this game arguably the better experience overall. Taking care of your digital pets is consistently delightful, and there's a lot of fun options for customization and training. I always love checking in and watching these cute animals live their perfect little lives, and I only feel slightly guilty when I forget about them for months on end. This isn't exactly the most complex or challenging experience, but sometimes you just want to chill out and take care of Leonard the pug. The improved graphics and animal interactions can be genuinely impressive at times, and its cozy atmosphere keeps me coming back years later. While Mario and Luigi Dream Team might not be the best entry in the series, its creative dream sequences and terrific soundtrack still make this an adventure worth going on. There's a whole lot of dialogue to click through that can be hit or miss, but once you get into some battles, this game starts to really shine. The timing-based attacks and dodging systems are as satisfyingly rhythmic and energetic as ever, and the overworld puzzle solving is a lot of fun as well. The modernized 2D art style looks great, and there are even a few clever uses of the 3D depth mechanic that actually made me turn up the 3D slider. I've heard great things about the other Mario and Luigi remakes on this console as well, and I look forward to playing them myself eventually in the future. Star Fox 64 3D is a pretty straightforward remake of the original, which means this is still a fantastic game even if it isn't doing anything too new or exciting for the series as a whole. Of course, the visuals look much better, which makes this my personal favorite way to play what many still consider to be the best Star Fox game. I know there are some mixed opinions on the redone voice lines and soundtrack, and while I don't think any remake should be treated as a full replacement, I still really enjoy playing this version. The on-rails levels work really well in 3D, and its high replayability makes it a great fit for portable play. The branching paths and score-based ranking system ensure that I always have a blast playing this game whenever I pick it up for a few hours. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon is pretty different from the first one, with a mission-based structure that not everyone is a big fan of. But this is still a very fun, spooky journey through lots of memorable levels with an impressive level of polish. It is very linear, but it leads to some great boss fights and unique situations. Luigi is as amazing as ever, as honestly one of my favorite parts of this game is seeing how he reacts to everything around him. Solving environmental puzzles and battling ghosts in this more bite-sized format has its own sort of appeal, although I do probably prefer the other Luigi's Mansion games overall. The remake of the original is probably the better game, but I haven't played that version myself yet. Mario Golf World Tour is a very strong Mario sports game, with a huge amount of content and some really underrated music. There's a large roster of characters and some really creative course designs, and while the single-player campaign and challenges are fairly simple, they still give you a reason to engage with the gameplay on a deeper level. There's just so much personality here with the character animations, and the visuals of all the courses still look great today. This game is full of color and charm, with all the various item shots being a great example of that. It even got some substantial DLC later on that added in even more content, and it's a shame that it can't be officially purchased anymore. After being let down by most of the recent Mario sports games, playing through this one felt pretty refreshing. Rhythm Heaven Megamix is a great compilation of past minigames while creating some solid new ones as well, all wrapped up in the usual package of wacky humor and visuals. Rhythm games like this can have a steep learning curve, but once you get it down it becomes one of the most fun and satisfying gameplay styles ever. The soundtrack and art design are what really carry these games, and Megamix doesn't disappoint. Finally mastering a tough minigame feels fantastic, and the remixes that combine a whole bunch of different challenges into one song are endlessly entertaining. If you're a fan of Nintendo's weirder side and love video game music, this is one you don't want to miss out on, and I'm so happy to say that this won't be the final Rhythm Heaven game. Ever Oasis manages to be both an enjoyable management sim and a Zelda-inspired dungeon crawler. Its chibi art style looks really great, and the core gameplay loop of restocking shops and venturing out into the desert to grab supplies and find treasure is just as addicting as it sounds. As one of the last big games on the 3DS, I feel like it didn't really get the time in the spotlight that it deserved. This game is doing a lot of really cool things, from being able to switch between playable characters that all have their own unique abilities to the huge scale of the environments and boss fights. While there are many other games on this system that fall into a similar genre and are stronger in a lot of ways, this is still a super fun action-adventure role-playing game that I loved playing through. Pokémon Sun and Moon have an incredible summer tropical atmosphere due to the Alola region's Hawaiian aesthetic, and it's my personal favorite Pokémon game on the console because of that. Of course, it's just a solid game in general as well, with a massive roster of Pokémon to catch and a decently interesting storyline. I doubt I have to explain what the main draw is here, as trying to catch them all and train up your perfect team is a global phenomenon for a reason. I know there are plenty of other great Pokémon games on the 3DS as well, so it really just comes down to personal preference when trying to decide which one is the best. I think this game perfected the look and feel for this series with 3D graphics, and it's still my favorite one from the modern era. There are also the Ultra versions of this game, but I haven't played those, so I'm just talking about the base games here. In some ways, Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS feels more impressive in its handheld form than it does on Wii U, as this fairly straightforward Smash game kind of hits harder when it's running on less powerful hardware. Of course, it's the less high quality game in terms of visuals, but this giant crossover fighting party is just as much fun on the go. Plus, this version has Smash Run, which is such a great side mode that gives you a reason to keep coming back to this game. Yes, Ultimate has made this game seem pretty outdated since it perfected the portable Smash experience, but I still have a soft spot in my heart for what this game offers. Its terrific roster of fighters and addictive gameplay easily make this a must-have for anyone's library of 3DS games. Majora's Mask 3D sort of dilutes the original's impact in a few ways, but it's still a perfectly fine version to play that has improved graphics and more quality of life features. Its intense 3-day clock cycle system creates a world that feels truly alive, with each character feeling like their own unique person. It's a darker and more mysterious journey for Link than usual, with all the dungeon puzzles and satisfying world progression that you'd expect from a Legend of Zelda game. The mask transformations totally shake up the gameplay, and the existential subject matter of the end of the world constantly looming overhead creates a very oppressive atmosphere that sticks with you long after beating it. Similar to Star Fox 64 3D, I think this game works best as a companion to the N64 game instead of a full replacement. I think Monster Hunter Stories is the best monster catching and battling game on the system, which I know will be a surprising choice to a lot of people. Its rock paper scissors style of turn-based combat can be a lot of fun, as it rewards learning the monster's attack patterns. Monster Hunter works surprisingly well in this format, and the open area exploration is pretty impressive for this console. The story isn't anything groundbreaking, but is still engaging and enjoyable, although I could do with a lot less Naviru dialogue. It's great seeing how each iconic monster is designed for this art style, and I think this game can act as the perfect entry point into the wider series as a whole. From forging new gear to enjoying each town's distinct atmosphere, this is an incredibly fun and high-quality spin-off that deserves more attention. Pilot Wings Resort brings the series to Woohoo Island, acting as a sort of sequel to the flyover mode from Wii Sports Resort. I feel like I like this game way more than most other people do, as it's often used as an example of how weak the 3DS's launch lineup was. And while it isn't exactly exploding with content or revolutionary gameplay, I still think there's a ton of fun to be had here. Each of the different methods of flying through the sky feel unique and are rewarding to learn how to control, and there's a nice mix of objectives and times of day that keep things feeling fresh. Whether you're taking on the missions or just exploring the island collecting eye points, this game can keep you entertained for hours. And I do feel I should mention that my Woohoo Island bias is in full effect here. Super Mario 3D Land isn't quite on the same level as Mario's other 3D adventures, but I don't think it's really trying to be. It embraces the design philosophy of the 2D games in terms of the level design and pacing, which makes it the perfect game to play on road trips. In a lot of ways it has that same sort of sanitized Mario aesthetic that Nintendo loved during this generation, but it does just enough to not fully fall into that camp for me. It's also one of the only games that attempts to make use of 3D as a mechanic, which makes it stand out a bit when compared to other games on the console. While it can be sort of underwhelming at times, it's also full of a lot of pure, simple platforming fun. Its sequel outdoes it in pretty much every way, but I still enjoy coming back to this one to play a few levels every once in a while. Metroid Samus Returns was the big comeback for 2D Metroid at the time, and it does a great job at bringing that style of gameplay into the modern age. The counter move can get a bit old after a while, and you end up fighting a whole lot of Metroids, but this game still has plenty of that amazing exploration and upgrade-focused gameplay loop that spawned an entire genre of gaming. This version of Samus's moveset is quick and snappy, leading to boss fights that can be pretty challenging to overcome. There's also some quality of life additions like the Scan Pulse, which lets you quickly identify what to interact with in the world and takes out a lot of the guesswork of past games. The changes to the ending aren't my favorite, but this is still a great remake overall that set the stage for an even better follow-up with Dread. Mario Kart 7 adds both underwater driving and gliding into the mix, which allows the track designs to be even more fun and creative. This game still looks great today, as its low poly graphics have their own sort of charm and appeal. There's a fantastic lineup of new and returning courses, and the new kart customization system gives you plenty of stuff to unlock. and even though including Honeyqueen and Wiggler over Waluigi is a crime against humanity, I still think this is a really solid handheld Mario Kart overall. So many of these tracks have come back because of how memorable they are, and this game built a lot of the structure that was later refined in 8. It has all the energetic music and chaotic item scrambling that makes this series so popular, and there are even a few courses that are still exclusive to this game. Shin Megami Tensei 4 is a very difficult and immersive turn-based RPG with really fleshed out characters and writing. The early game twist leads to a fascinating world and setup for the story, with plenty of great narrative choices you have to make along the way. The combat can be a bit frustrating because of its guess and check nature at times, but when it all comes together and you barely make it past a tough boss, you feel unstoppable. This game also has one of the best soundtracks on the console, with battle themes and atmospheric tracks that serve the gameplay perfectly and also stand on their own as absolute bangers. It's interesting to see lesser known games like this take such heavy inspiration from Persona. That was a joke, by the way, please don't hurt me. Depending on your personality, you'll probably think I'm putting Tomodachi Life either way too high on the list or not nearly high enough, and that's what's so great about this game. It's not afraid to do weird things that not everyone will like, which leads to some hilariously strange situations and moments. You're just an observer to these Mii's dramatic and confusing lives, and you end up getting really attached to them over time. This game genre is probably closest to a management life sim, but honestly there isn't anything else quite like it. But as much as I adore Tomodachi Life, it does eventually get pretty repetitive once you've seen everything the island has to offer in terms of content and interactions. But there's still so much enjoyment you can get out of this game, as it gets me to laugh more consistently than any other game I've played due to how bizarre it is. Fire Emblem Awakening is the game that saved the series, and it's easy to see why this game blew up in popularity. It's super impressive just how polished it is, with battle animations and CG cutscenes that make the experience feel really high quality. And while I wish there was full voice acting for all of the dialogue, this is still a great fantastical story that often feels larger than life. The strategic battles are really satisfying to play through, and the focus on building up relationships between all your units is fun as well. But I know that the easier difficulty and some of the more fanservice-y elements have been somewhat controversial, although I'm no Fire Emblem expert. When it comes to tactical RPGs on the 3DS, Awakening is one of the very best ones available. It may seem a bit crazy to put Fantasy Life this high on the list, but this game is really something special. There are 12 lives to choose from at the start, with each of them having different playstyles and storylines. I wasn't expecting it, but this quickly became one of my all-time favorite life sim games thanks to its sharp writing, satisfying quest progression, and deep level of customization. While the early game has a bit too much talking, once you get further into the game things start to really open up. Exploring this medieval kingdom and meeting all the quirky characters along the way is so much fun, and it has some really great music as well. Whether you're chasing down bounties as a mercenary or working as a cook in the kitchen, this game can give you a near endless amount of content to enjoy. Ocarina of Time 3D is the definitive way to play one of the best games ever made, with hugely improved graphics and quality of life additions that make this classic adventure feel fresh again. This remake is what initially launched me into my Zelda fandom, and it still remains one of my favorites to this day. It's incredible just how well this game has held up over time, as it not only created the blueprint for later entries in the series but arguably perfected it as well. The dungeons are extremely well designed, the story is simple but still impactful, and the gameplay still holds up. I know this game has been praised endlessly over the years and not everyone agrees with it all, but I think it's totally deserved. And the only reason it isn't higher on the list is because it's a remake of an N64 game and not a fully original 3DS game. Kid Icarus Uprising is a fantastic revival for a dormant franchise, breathing new life into its mythical world and characters with a great sense of momentum and scale in its on-rails shooting gameplay. Yes, the control scheme is awkward and uncomfortable at times, but I can't really fault the game itself for the limitations of the console it's on. The constant dialogue would probably get annoying if it wasn't for how high quality all of the voice acting performances are, and the writing is genuinely funny and entertaining throughout. There's a huge level of customization available for you to tailor the experience to your own playstyle, from the difficulty slider to the wide range of weapons to choose from, and the online multiplayer modes were a ton of fun when they were still functioning. You can really tell how much passion went into this game, and it's overall a terrific experience despite feeling somewhat restricted by the system it's on. Kirby Planet Robobot is one of the most creative and enjoyable 2D platformers out there, with a memorable central robotic theme that never gets stale thanks to its consistent evolution throughout the levels. Not only are there lots of fun new abilities alongside the classic ones, but the new Robobot armor gets multiple different unique power-ups as well. Kirby feels great to control, the boss fights are terrific, and nearly every level gets a really interesting setup and payoff. The amount of new ideas and mechanics being introduced is super impressive, and it strikes a great balance between depth and variety. This formula has been refined to near perfection here, and it all culminates in a stellar finale that left me stunned. Combine all of that with a high-tech soundtrack full of bangers, and this is easily my personal favorite game in the entire Kirby series. A Link Between Worlds is a tightly designed 2D Zelda adventure that uses its core mechanic of transforming into a painting extremely well. Acting as a spiritual successor to A Link to the Past, it manages to feel like a classic Zelda game in a lot of ways while still being more open by giving you the freedom to complete the dungeons in innate order. There's also the item renting system, which further changes up the core formula without abandoning it entirely. The combat is fast-paced and fun, each dungeon is full of creative puzzles, and the light and dark world structure is just as cool as it was back in 1992. This art style is one of my absolute favorites from the whole series, and the story delivers plenty of great moments by the time the credits roll. This game somehow just gets even better as time goes on, and it's one of the very best games on this console that I always love revisiting. Animal Crossing New Leaf fits on the 3DS so perfectly because of its pick-up-and-play gameplay style and relaxing atmosphere. Being the town's mayor gives you just the right amount of customization options without making you feel like an all-powerful ruler, and it always feels like you're working towards a larger goal that's worth the effort. Running around completing various tasks like catching bugs or shaking trees can put you into a sort of zen state that no other game can match. I have so many fond memories with this game, and I still feel a sort of emotional connection to my town and villagers. This game pairs so well with late summer nights, early spring mornings, or a slow fall afternoon, as its real-time clock system makes it a great companion to accompany you over the course of many months or even years. For the longest time, this was my all-time favorite 3DS game because of its unique sense of nostalgic warmth and comfort. But there's one other game that has now taken the #1 spot for me. Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate is the game that reignited my passion for the 3DS, which eventually led me to making this entire video. It had a lot to live up to as it's frequently cited as one of the strongest games in the series by fans, and it still managed to exceed those high expectations. It's the perfect midpoint between the old and new styles of Monster Hunter gameplay, with the most engaging story progression in the series. Every new town you visit is somehow better than the last, and that goes for the monsters you fight as well. The core loop of hunting and forging stronger gear kept me hooked all the way through, and this is possibly the most graphically impressive game on the entire console. I know that Monster Hunter doesn't click with everyone due to its heavy and deliberate style of movement and combat, along with an intimidating wealth of content that can feel overwhelming to try and dive into as a newcomer. But if you're able to get into it, this game is something truly incredible. Although I played them on other consoles, I know that 3 Ultimate and Generations are terrific games as well, but I don't think it's too controversial to say that this is undoubtedly the best Monster Hunter on this system, and in my opinion, it's the finest gaming experience available on the 3DS. And that's my list of the top 25 3DS games. I spent a lot of time rearranging my picks to try and create my perfect list, but I'm sure there will inevitably still be placements that I'll change my mind about in the future. At the end of the day, all of these games are great and I just want to celebrate everything this amazing console offers. I do recognize that almost all of the games I picked are from Nintendo, but I don't know what to tell you. Nintendo was cooking on this console. I also have a very long list of honorable mentions to go over at the end here, but I've only played about half of these myself. All of the Ace Attorney games, Attack of the Friday Monsters, Box Boy 1, 2, and 3, Bravely Default, Dylan's Dead Heat Breakers, Dragon Quest VIII, Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia, Harmo Knight, Miitopia, New Super Mario Bros. 2, Pocket Card Jockey, both Professor Layton's, the Pushmo games, Rhythm Thief and the Emperor's Treasure, Tales of the Abyss, Triforce Heroes, WarioWare Gold, and all 3 of the Yokai Watch games. And I'm sure I'm still missing a bunch of great ones. Having a reason to revisit this console and spend so much time with it over the past few months has been so much fun. And I highly recommend booting up whatever model you have and giving some of your old games a go. Or even better, try something new that you might have missed out on. Okay, that's all the time I've got. I gotta get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS.